Thank you for joining us here again at Get Ready News. I'm Mark Lindsted. This is my brother David Lindsted. And we're going to look at some of our current news in light of the Bible today.
Yeah, the Bible is a very, very useful tool. You know, you would think something written 2,000 years ago plus would not apply today, but it's amazing how on time and relevant it is for today.
It certainly is. And it's interesting to me how detailed it will get if you're willing to study it.
Yeah, we were looking at the prophecies of the birth of Jesus. You know, here we
Yeah.
are coming upon Christmas, and it's amazing how detailed all of those prophecies are and how they were fulfilled in detail.
Yep. And if you want to see that video, you go over to Get Ready News on YouTube or Facebook. I think we uploaded it both places there. Speaking of things in the Bible and what's happening around now, there's a lot of talk around drones here lately.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And in fact, there's even some new laws about flying drones in certain states over certain areas. But even more overreaching than that, I've seen people talking about stuff in the sky here recently and say, "Oh, they're angels," or they're something from the end of the world." And I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it's hard to really know. I've seen where people have taken, I think, pictures of the drones that we're seeing over there and post them as if they saw them here in Kansas.
Yeah.
Which is not true.
Yeah.
It's not an issue over here. There's so much disinformation and so much baloney out there. Sometimes it's hard to find what is actually the truth. But you know, the thing that I found absolutely fascinating was who's the person they went to find out what the drones were. Was it Biden?
No.
No. Was it Kamala?
No.
No. Who was that?
They asked Trump.
They asked Trump.
An interesting thing he said, I believe he said, the government knows what they are, the government knows why they're here and what they're doing, but they're not going to tell you.
Yep. And it really gets me that Trump has so much leadership, so much power that people look to him even before he's president.
Yeah.
To help solve their problems.
Yeah. Well, and what's really interesting to me is that he's actually said, I think it was on Joe Rogan's podcast, that he said he's going to release the second half of the JFK files and things like that. He's going to bring some things to light that need to be out in the open.
Yeah, I think he said he was going to make everything public on Roswell, or at least the UFO files and stuff like that.
I'm terrified if he keeps talking like that, they're going to take another shot at him.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people probably in government offices who don't want a lot of that information out.
That's true. One of the things that I had heard, and this almost, in my opinion, sounds conceivable,
Sure.
is that there is a threat of a dirty bomb or something like that, and they're searching for it.
And that's what the drones really are doing.
That's what the drones are doing, is they're coming in at night, they're flying low, and they're trying to find some type of radiation or something like that because they think something's going to happen. Now, my opinion, and I think yours too, and I can't really speak for you, I think there's a lot of sleeper cells in America, and I think these jihadis and other people are waiting for the cue to do something.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've seen it proven over and over again when the southern border was so relaxed that people could just waltz in, and they proved there were hundreds of people on the Do Not Enter America list that entered America through the southern border.
Absolutely. It wasn't just people of Latin descent
Yeah.
that came across that border. They arrested all sorts, or I should say arrested, they detained Middle Eastern people, Chinese people.
Yeah.
It's just been open to everybody to coming through, so we have no idea what's here.
Well, and I think that was really the master plan, in my opinion, was to open that border up enough that America will have to fall. I think they want it to be a borderless world.
Yeah,
is the idea.
I agree with that. I think that falls in line with the one world government. Everybody's part of everything, and I think that America is probably the last bastion of not one world government, not one world religion.
Sure.
Open to many different religions. You know, we were supposed to be able to live together and whatnot. And I think that needs to come apart.
Yeah. Well, I was just in Myanmar, and the government junta or whatever you want to call it is running that country. They had a great surge for about 5 years of democracy.
Yeah.
And when the lady Aung San Young, I think is her name, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, and I'm sorry if I am, won in a landslide on the last vote, and then the military took it over because they want to be in control.
Right.
And you start to see all these little countries like Myanmar, and they're being run by this military, and the military is getting all its weapons from Russia and from China.
Yep.
And so you say, well, are they on board with the one world order? They definitely are, because as soon as Russia and China say, yes, we're in, this little country comes right up behind them. So really, they're all kind of lined up in a way to accept whatever the big dogs want, and the only biggest dog that's not on board yet is America.
Absolutely, I think that's the crux of the whole thing, and I think that we are looking at the leadership that we have now, that we've had for a while. I think outside of Trump, has been pushing us toward a third world status, if you will. Not so much they want us to be poor and have nothing, but that they want us to fall in line.
Yes.
And they want us to be equal with everybody else. And I think of DEI and equity, other nations are envious of us to an extent, and they want to try to line all that out and make everything one.
Yeah, well, they want equality of outcome.
Oh, yeah.
Not equality of starting place.
Exactly.
And we agree with equality of starting place.
Absolutely.
But not equality of outcome. Outcome is what you put into it, is what you get out of it. And I think that the American people are not on board with the one world government.
No.
For the most part. But I think the American government is on board.
I agree with that. And I think that the idea in their mind is if I cater to the powers that be, I will still be a power.
That's right. I think it's all about power.
Yeah, and I used to sit there and wonder, how could somebody make such a drastic decision that would ruin America? But I think it comes down to, I want power, and this is the way I can keep power absolutely no matter what.
Well, and I also look at it this way. If they could see the writing on the wall, say, okay, this is coming, I want to make sure that I'm not one of those that is being trodden on. I want to be the trod-er, not the trod-e.
Exactly.
And so how do I secure myself into a role, into a position where I'm not going to be part of the masses who are told what to do? I want to be part of the people telling the masses what to do.
Yeah, I think that's 100% what's going on. And I think that's why we see this detrimental thought.
Yeah.
I mean, the government is so far removed from what the people want.
Yeah. Well, we see that this Russia, in the J Post, this most recent article here says Russia's ready to compromise with Trump, not with America,
right?
Not with Ukraine, not with Israel, not with anybody. They're ready to compromise with Trump on the Ukraine war. This is from Putin himself.
Yeah. It just goes to show you that the world needs a good leader.
Yeah.
And when a leader comes on board, everybody understands it and caters to him. Yeah. And he has a lot of pull.
Well, it really, I mean, if you wanted to biblically trace where we're at right now, I think you look at what we're seeing here as a setup for, and I don't think this is Revelation 17. I think this is a setup for Revelation 17. And it talks about the one world order or the one government. It talks about how 17 verse 10, there were 7 kings, 5 have fallen, this one and the other is not yet come. And when they come, they must continue a short space. And when I look at that, and I continue to read here, and we see that there were 10 horns, verse 12, 10 horns, thou sawest 10 kings, which received the kingdom not as of yet.
Right.
So we look at what the UN has done. I think it's the UN has divided the world into 10 separate
compartments,
territories.
Territories.
And you might even call those kingdoms.
Yeah.
And these kingdoms are set and ready. No one's really been said that they're over that specific kingdom yet, but I think we can look at this right here and see what is actually being set up. But the funny thing is, it says when those kings come to power, they all within an hour give their power over to the beast.
Yep. And I think that I see that happening now. Whether or not the UN or anybody ever really officially notates 10 different kingdoms, there's still going to be 10 different, there's actually just a few different entities that are controlling everything.
Oh, yeah.
And 10 would be probably a probable number, but you can see how they will take direction.
Yeah.
When somebody steps up that has a real plan, a real idea, they are willing to fold and do whatever's required.
Well, let's say that one of those 10 regions is the United States, or North America. They're going to fall under the American president, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And we've already seen Trump offer Canada to be a state, offer Mexico to be a state. And I'm not opposed to that, to tell you the truth, because maybe we can regulate things a little bit better for Mexico. Canada, man, they're struggling so much with these green people, they don't know what to do. But then I can see Putin being over one of his regions, and I can see Xi Jinping being over a region, and you start to think about these guys, and all these guys, the main thing they want to do is to remain in power. But they're all bowing to Trump. They're all trying to get on Trump's good side. So you can see that they're all still a little bit weak, because they want to make sure that they have power, but they don't think they have the wherewithal on their own to do it.
I think this opens up an idea. Of course, I believe the Antichrist is going to come out of the EU-ish area. And I think he's going to have a lot of solutions, and he's going to talk brilliant things. And like the quote that you like to read, if you find that person that will save us out of our debt, out of our
economic morass, he called it.
If you find that person, we're going to follow him. Whether or not he's a Hitler, or not, we're going to follow him.
That's one of the founders of the EU. His last name is Spaak, S-P-A-A-K. And he even says, we don't care if he's of the devil. We don't care if he's of God. We just want him, and we'll follow him.
We want things to be nice on this earth.
And that's exactly how they're gonna go. And it's funny to watch, these people consider Putin a very strong leader. But Putin bows to Trump as soon as Trump is on the stage. No, he doesn't. Yeah, he does.
Yes, he does.
In fact, I saw a headline in the J Post just today. It says Putin denies Russia defeat in Syria, but says that Israel is the main winner. So is Putin giving out participation trophies now?
I used to always picture Russia pretty strong. I mean, when communism fell, fell back in the 80s, we thought, it's all over. Russia's no longer a power, but they are still a huge power. And it really gets me that Putin would suck up underneath somebody that has a very forward power. And it just shows how you have this perception of these different leaders, but they actually are very insecure.
Well, you look at Ezekiel 38. And many people, if you read the New King James, it says Rush, the chief prince, Meshach and Tubal, and so a lot of people have interpreted that, and I kind of believe this as well, that Rosh is the Hebrew word for Russia. And so it says that Russia is going to be the leader, and it gives their two capitals, Moscow and Tubalisk.
Right.
And it says they're going to come with Gomer and all these people against Israel. And a lot of people said, well, Russia fell in the 80s. They're not even a power. So your interpretation is over, and you were so wrong. This is never going to happen. Well, where are we with Russia now?
I think that was a false collapse.
I think it was a collapse, but not the collapse that would end a country completely. Because if the Bible says it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
The other thing I find interesting about that scripture is it says that Russia will leave, but then God is going to put hooks in its jaw and bring it back into the situation. And I've listened to a guy, and I found it kind of interesting. He says, for that to happen, Russia's got to be a little bit on the weak side, and that has to be, they're forced into something they don't want to do. And so it could be, Putin could be dragged into something he wasn't wanting to do.
And not only that, but I don't know if he's dragged in maybe to a conflict as much as he's dragged in, let's say he's looking for energy.
Yes.
Because, Russia does do well on their own energy production. I think they have some fields of oil and gas and things of that nature. But now there's lots of countries who try and depend on them. I mean, we had Germany's get their line blown up and everything. And Israel has probably the biggest stockpile of natural gas of any country in the world. In fact, we just saw Amos Hochstein of the U.S. negotiate to give one of the entire natural gas fields to Lebanon, to Hezbollah, really, and said, well, Hezbollah will pay Israel royalty. Well, the check hasn't come. I guarantee that. But what I'm saying is that hook might be energy.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it says in Ezekiel 38, they're going to come to take a spoil.
That's right. And I've always thought there's one good earthquake away from a million billion gallons of oil over there in Israel. I mean, that place is changing so much, and there's so much that we haven't found yet.
Well, God promised that land would be fruitful, that it would bear fruit, that it would grow crops, it would produce energy. I mean, everything. Israel's been given the blessing.
Oh, yeah.
And we can see that with the blessing in their mines to desalinate water. The blessing in their agriculture, where we're now seeing planters overtaking reapers. See one guy growing 7 crops in 1 year in the same field.
The ground over there is so fertile because it hasn't been used, and the Dead Sea is full of so many minerals and stuff that we were talking. I think last week we talked about how the Mediterranean. You believe that when Jesus puts his feet down and the mountain splits, that's going to change the way it's going to make that a lush valley, lush land.
Well, it says the prophecy is that the Dead Sea will be made alive. And it talks about springing waters from Jerusalem, under Jerusalem, that will flood into the Dead Sea. But I also think that earthquake of him setting his foot on the Mount of Olives, because if you trace the Kidron Valley and all that, it goes all the way to the Dead Sea from the Mediterranean. I mean, there's a clear path.
And I know that in the past, and I don't know if they still are, Israel has contemplated trying to flood that valley with the Mediterranean.
Israel and their water, I don't even know how to... I get so irritated when I get there because we talk about, and you could definitely see, I've been there year after year, you can definitely see that the Dead Sea is going down 3 foot a year. And they say, well, global warming. And I said, when I first came to Israel in 2009, I remember we were at the Sea of Galilee. There was 12 foot of beach. So where we like to stay, the Ron Beach Hotel, wonderful family owns this beautiful hotel. And they have these cement steps that come up almost like piers out into the sea because they've got their own private sea access. And they're probably 10 foot off the ground, 12 foot off the ground, and then you had 12 foot of crushed stone beach there. Remember, we were down on that beach. I got pictures of you and your wife and my parents down there walking around enjoying it. Well, the last time I've been, or the last several times I've been, the water level is clear up past those concrete boat docks. So if you walk out on that boat dock, you're in the water up to your neck.
Wow.
So what's really going on? Are we stopping the water in the Sea of Galilee and not letting it continue to the Dead Sea? And that's why we're starting to see more reduction. Because if you were to take a cup of water and leave it out in the sun, it would evaporate. And if you never put water into it again, it would continue to evaporate. But if you had a water source that kept pumping into it, it would maintain its level. So I think that the idea that the Dead Sea is shrinking because of climate change is ridiculous. I think it's shrinking because of man-made diversion of water, not heat. And interestingly enough, Israel doesn't use that water for themselves. They give that water to Jordan because they desalinize all their water for Israel. So, and of course, Jordan hates Israel, but Israel keeps them from turning to dust. It's such an interesting area, but we start looking at what Israel does around the world to help people and how many Nobel Prizes have come out of Israel. And
the pharmaceuticals, the medical advancements, it's amazing.
I want to say, and I may be wrong, I want to say that there's maybe 30 or 40% of all Nobel Prizes in the medical field come out of a Jewish person.
Exactly. Yep. I think that's right. The number might be a little bit off, but it's a surprising huge amount. And I know that I even look in Haiti.
Yeah.
When they had the horrible earthquake and all that stuff that happened, Israel was there
Yep.
with a medical hut doing medical
Yeah.
things for that country. And Israel's always Johnny on the spot.
Always. Even their enemies.
Yes.
They've been there to help. And how is Israel paid?
Yep.
Well, we look at this. The Israeli army now is striking the Yemeni ports because what? Yemeni struck a school.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, you want to be at war with somebody? Fine. Shoot at their military base. Shoot at their boats. Whatever. But a school?
Yeah. It's amazing how Israel is treated.
Yeah.
We look at the Gaza war that we're currently in, and the horribleness of October 7th, 2023, what happened there, and Israel still warned citizens, we're going to blow this place up, leave.
Yeah.
What other country warns the enemy that they're going to bomb here to destroy tunnels and depositories?
I can only think of two countries who ever do that: the United States and Israel.
Yep.
They say, we're coming tomorrow, 7 o'clock.
Yep.
Set your watch by it. Get out of town. And it's just so interesting that I see a direct correlation with the countries who attack horribly and their religion.
Yeah. Yep.
These are all Muslim countries, and they look to seek to bring terror.
Yeah.
Not to bring war. They look to bring terror. And we even hear they're faking these pictures, they're faking the videos of them putting children into ovens and raping women. And no, these were streamed from the fighters themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
During the attack. And I'm just so tired of how the world treats Israel. And I just saw just as I was pulling into the studio here, there was another shooting at a Jewish school in Canada. Now, I don't know if it shot anyone. I think it just said people were shooting at the school or something like that. I didn't have time to read it. But the anti-Semitism over a country that does nothing but help is exactly why when people say, well, how do you know your God is the true God? He's the God you hate.
Yeah.
And you think about, well, if someone says, Allah bless you. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Buddha is the way. Oh, I'll check into that.
Yeah.
Hey, Jesus. Oh, don't you say one more word. You're pushing your religion on me.
You're a bigot. You hate me because of my choices, and it's one of those things of I know Christianity's got to be right because everybody hates you, and it's like, well, one of the commandments in the Bible to the Christian is to be subject to the government.
Yeah,
we're not to have rebellions. We're not to do, and so you would think, well, that would be the perfect people to be over, but yet everybody wants to kill the Christian and get rid of the Christian.
Well, and I think that a lot of that comes to the fact that Christians, if they're living biblically, live a pretty moral lifestyle. Yeah. And I think that's very condemning to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
It's just like when you see the LGBTQ alphabet soup people, and they're saying, well, we want new laws that tell us we're right. We want new laws that say we can marry who we want to marry. We want new laws to do this. And we want you to say we're right.
Yep.
And what I think that they're doing, in my opinion of this, is they've got that still voice in their back of their head that tells them what they're doing is wrong.
Not right. Correct.
Because remember, it says, I have put morality in your hearts. I've laid my word in your heart.
Yeah.
Whether you believe in me or not, you all know right and wrong because I've laid it into your being. And what I think these people are doing is they're looking for people to approve of their lifestyle, to try and quash that voice in the back of their soul that tells them they're doing wrong. And what they're going to realize is it doesn't matter how many laws say it's right. It doesn't matter how many people you get to tell you you're okay and you're right, you're doing the right thing. You're still going to have in the back of your mind, that you're doing wrong.
Yeah. What do they say? Consensus doesn't mean it's true.
Yes.
Consensus doesn't mean it's right. Just because you can go out and gather people to your side doesn't mean that you're right. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think there's a little bit of a voice back there nagging at them and chewing at them the whole time, and they're frustrated with that, and they're taking it out on people that believe that way.
Well, and they think if they get those people to say that they're right, that feeling of doing wrong will go away, but it won't. It won't.
No.
And that's just what I was just talking about with the governments, that you think that they'd want to govern morally good, nice people who don't want to overthrow them, but it convicts them the way the people live, and they don't like that, so they don't want you.
You know, it's kind of funny you say that. I always think back to when Paul was in prison in Rome.
Yeah.
And, of course, the second time he was more or less shackled to a soldier all the time. and before you know it, he's writing his letters and he's saying, also the guards who have become saved wish you well and are praying for you too, you know. And so it's infectious.
Yeah.
You know, people start to get convicted and then it just grows and spreads.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we should be doing, is spreading the word of God. I mean, that's Mark 16:15 is one of my favorites. Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And it's such a thing, a command for us to do that we feel, of course, at BTIP and at Get Ready News and Milk and Honey, we're always going out into the world. We're trying to get the gospel to every creature. And we're very much so about evangelism and missions and providing Bibles and things to certain countries. In fact, I leave for India in a couple of weeks, and I'll be gone for 2.5 weeks, just speaking at a youth camp, speaking at a workers and elders conference, and then visiting some local assemblies that we've helped to raise up there in that area. Yeah,
it is our number one goal, our number one commandment is to spread the gospel. And as much as we are in other countries, we also know that we need to spread the gospel here.
Sure.
And so, you know, it's one of the things we do is through this show, also locally in our own city. So wherever you're at, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, you're a missionary. For God, and you should be out spreading the gospel. And, you know, one of the things I was always afraid of when I was, what am I going to say to somebody about the gospel? How am I going to answer their questions? Well, I got a secret for you. You just say it, and God takes care of the rest of it. You don't have to do. God will take His word, and His word is like a knife. It just cuts to the quick.
Well, it says that His word will not return void.
Yes.
So you put it out there, you tell them, you know what, you may not have all the answers, and that's okay. You can say, hey, you know what, if you give me your phone number or your email, or I'll give you my phone number or my email, I'll research that and then reach out and I'll get you the answer. But maybe we should just research it together. We'll look at it together. And that's another way of witnessing, is just to study with somebody, and they finally say, oh, I can see how the truth is in this.
Yes.
Well, thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you again next week.